Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining this morning. Srimad Bhagavatam class and attentive Japa. Welcome to the program. And as we were hearing Sunday, that's very, very important, especially for Grihasthas, to hear Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam every day, at least on a Friday. We should listen as much as possible and read whenever possible as well. So we'll make a start. Today we're talking about Lord Sri Krishna is everything. It continues from our last week when we were discussing how devotion to Lord Krishna is the pure devotion. We discussed the various demigods and what you need, and you have the various demigods that can provide you those your material desires. But the ultimate is, and the purest is, devotion is from Lord Sri Krishna. So when Maharaj Parikshit heard from Srila Shukdev Goswami that one should worship the Lord only and no one else, even though full of all desires or desireless. So even if you do have desires, still worship Lord Krishna. And this way he realized, he was so pleased that Krishna provides facility for everyone, people who have desires and not desires. So his natural affection for Krishna got really strengthened by that statement. So let's do a quick prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mukham Karoti Vasanam Pangum Lamyate Girim Yat Kirpatam Vande Shri Guru Deen Taranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tassat Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Noratamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiriyat Nasta Prayesha Abhadareshu Nityam Bhagavad Sevya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Bhavti Nestaki Jai. So to become a pure devotee, so pure devotion, to become a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, it's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that two things are very much essential. Namely, having a chance to born in the family of a devotee and having the blessings of a bona fide spiritual master. Now, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that a fortunate person, by the mercy of the spiritual master and Lord Shri Krishna, achieves the path of devotional service. This was perfectly applicable in the case of Maharaj Parikshit. By way of being born in a family of devotees, the Pandavas, he ultimately came in touch with Krishna, and after being so contacted, he constantly remembered him. Consequently, Lord Krishna gave him, the king, a further chance for development in devotional service by introducing him to Shukdev Goswami, a stalwart devotee of the Lord with perfect knowledge in self-realization. And by hearing from a bona fide spiritual master, he was perfectly able to concentrate his chaste mind further upon Lord Krishna as a matter of course. So, he's reinforced his beliefs and his knowledge. So Maharaj Parikshit, as a result of his wholehearted attraction for Lord Sri Krishna, was able to give up all deep-rooted affection for his personal body, his wife, his children, his palace, his animals like horses and elephants, his treasury house, his friends and relatives, and his undisputed kingdom. He would just totally give it up, the attraction of these things, which they are very deep-rooted, all our assets. We are very, very much attracted to them, and we treasure them very strongly. So to become liberated means to become free from dehatma buddhi, the illusory attachment for personal bodily coverings and everything connected with the body, namely wife, children, and other entanglements. One selects a wife for bodily comforts, and the result is children. For wife and children, one requires a dwelling place, and as such, a residential house is also necessary. Animals like horses, elephants, cows, and dogs are all household animals, and a householder has to keep them as a household paraphernalia. Now, in the modern civilization, the horses and elephants have been replaced by cars and conveyances with considerable horsepower. So to maintain all the household affairs, one has to increase the bank balance and be careful about the treasury house. And in order to display the opulence of material assets, one has to keep good relationships with friends and relatives as well as become very careful about maintaining the status quo. This is called material civilization of material attachment. Devotion for Lord Sri Krishna means negation of all material attachments as detailed above. So we want to make a we want to be attached to Krishna, then we have to stop the other attachments. You can't be attached to both things. You have to drop one to attach to the other. So devotion for Lord Krishna means negation of all material attachments as detailed. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Maharaj Parikshit was awarded all material amenities and undisputed kingdom to enjoy the undisturbed position of king. But by the grace of the Lord, he was able to give up all connections with material attachment. That is the position of a pure devotee. Okay. So, all great sages, the great soul Maharaj Parikshit, constantly wrapped in thought of Lord Krishna, knowing well of his imminent death, he renounced all sorts of fruitive activities, namely acts of religion, economic development, and sense gratification, and thus fixed himself firmly in his natural love for Krishna and asked all these questions exactly as you are asking me. So this is obviously Sutta Goswami speaking. The three activities of religion, economic development, and sense gratification are generally attractive for conditioned souls struggling for existence. In the material world, such regulated activities prescribed in the Vedas are called karam kandya, conception of life, and householders are generally recommended to follow the rules just to enjoy material prosperity, both in this life and in the next. Most people are attracted by such activities, even the activities of their modern godless civilization. People are more concerned with economic development and sense gratification without any religious sentiments. As a great emperor of the world, Maharaj Parikshit had to observe such regulations of the Vedic Karma Kanda section, but by his slight association with Sukadeva Goswami, he could perfectly understand that Lord Sri Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead, Vasudev, for whom he had a natural love since birth, is everything. So Lord Sri Krishna is everything. And thus he fixed his mind firmly upon him, renouncing all modes of Vedic Karma Kandi activities. Now, this perfection stage is attained by a Jnani after many, many births. The Jnanis are, or the empiric philosophers endeavoring for liberation, are thousands of times better than the fruitic workers. And out of hundreds of thousands of such Jnanis, one is liberated factually. And out of hundreds of thousands of such liberated persons, even one person is really found who can firmly fix his mind onto the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, as mentioned in Bhagavad-Gita. So then Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva Goswami. So he knows what to do and he's given up all the material desires, everything for Lord Sri Krishna. And now he's more interested. He's a pure devotee, but he wants to know a little bit more about how Lord Sri Krishna is everything. He knows, but he's obviously asking questions on our behalf. So he says, I beg to know from you how the personality of Godhead, by his personal energies, creates these phenomenal universes as they are, which are inconceivable even to the great demigods. So all inquiries on God, which are unknown to the disciple, may be made from the qualified spiritual master. And here the practical example is set by Maharaj Parikshit. It was, however, already known to Maharaj Parikshit that everything we see is born out of energy of Lord, as we have all learned in very beginning in Srimad Bhagavatam. So Maharaj Parikshit wanted to know the process of creation. The origin of creation was known to him, otherwise he would not have inquired how the personality of Godhead by its different energies creates this phenomenal world. So he already knows that Krishna creates this, but now he's asking how for our sake. The common man also knows that the creation is made by some creator and is not created automatically. We have no experience in the practical world that a thing is created automatically. Foolish people say that the creative energy is independent and acts automatically as electrical energy works. but the intelligent men know that even the electrical energy is generated by an expert engineer in the localized powerhouse, and thus the energy is distributed everywhere under the resident engineer's supervision. The Lord's supervision in connection with creation is mentioned even in the Bhagavad-Gita, and it is clearly said there that material energy is a manifestation of one of the many such energy of the Supreme. Parasya Shakti Vivideva Shruyate. So this material energy is creation. It just doesn't just appear out of nowhere. And Brahmaji admits Lord Krishna to be the supreme cause of all causes, but persons with tiny brains within this petty planet Earth think of the Lord as one of them. Thus, when the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita that He is all in all, the speculative philosophers and the mundane wrangler deride Him, and the Lord regretfully says, Abhijanati Mamuda Manushim Tanum Ashritam Param Bhavam Ajananto Mam Bhuta Maheshwaram. Lord Krishna says, the fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They don't know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. Brahma and Shiva, and what to speak of the other demigods, are bhutas or powerful created demigods who manage universal affairs, much like ministers appointed by a king. The ministers may be Ishwaras or controllers, but the Supreme Lord is Maheshwara or Maheshwara, or the creator of the controllers. So persons with a poor fund of knowledge don't know this, and therefore they have the audacity to deride him because he comes before us by his causeless mercy occasionally as a human being. So when he comes, he looks like a human being, and they mock him sometimes, like in the Mahabharata, thinking that he's an ordinary human being. But it is mercy that he comes as one of us and joins and shows his pastimes to us. The Lord is not like a human being. He is Sachidananda Vigra, or the absolute personality of Godhead, and there is no difference between his body and his soul. He is both the power and the powerful. So this is the state. And regarding the neophyte devotee, those who are under the control of the external energy of the Lord, or in other words, those who are in the material world, must first of all know how the external energy of the Lord is working under the direction of the Supreme Personality. So Lord Krishna is everything, and now we're talking about the material energy, and afterwards one may try to enter into the activities of his internal energy. So first we try to understand the external energy, and then we should look at the internal energy. Otherwise we won't understand that what's going on. Try to understand his external energy in the first instance. So the mundanes are mostly worships of Durga Devi, the external energy of Krishna, but they don't know that Durga Devi is but the shadow energy of the Lord. Behind her astonishing display of material working is the direction of the Lord, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. The Brahma Samhita affirms that Durga Shakti is working by the direction of Govinda, and without his sanction, the powerful Durga Shakti cannot move even a blade of grass. Therefore, the neophyte devotee, instead of jumping at once to the platform of transcendental pastimes presented by the internal energy of the Lord, may know how great the Supreme Lord is by inquiring about the process of his creative energy. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, also descriptions of the creation energy of the Lord's hand in it are explained. And the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita has knowledge about Krishna in regard to how great he is. Only when he knows Lord Krishna's greatness can one firmly put one's unflinching faith in him. So we have to understand him first before then we have gives us more faith into the Lord. This is why it's important to understand and not just trust blindly. Let's understand. Krishna has given us all the information, we should try and understand it. So only when one knows that Lord Krishna's greatness can one firmly put one's unflinching faith in him. Otherwise, like the common man, even the great leaders of men will mistake Lord Krishna for one of the many demigods, which is actually, this is what happens. Everybody thinks he's just one of the demigods. And they find it hard to believe that, we are Well, when we are worshiping Krishna, they think we just worshipping a demigod, and most people will say, "Look, you're not supposed to worship demigods. That's all they know. You're not supposed to worship demigod." But they don't know then who do you worship. Otherwise, they should know that you don't worship demigods, you worship Lord Krishna, but they don't know that. So they think that he's one of the demigods or a historical personality or a myth only. And we hear that all the time. And the transcendental pastimes of the Lord in Vrindavan or even at Dwarka are eligible for persons who have already qualified themselves in advanced spiritual techniques. And the common man may be able to attain to such a plane by the gradual process of service and inquiries, as we are seeing in the behavior of Maharaj Parikshit. When he says, "O learned Brahman, the transcendental activities of the Lord are all wonderful, and they appear inconceivable because even great endeavors by many learned scholars have still proved insufficient for understanding them. So the acts of the Supreme Lord in the creation of just this one universe appear inconceivably wonderful," right? And there are innumerable universes, and all of them aggregated together are known as the created material world. And this part of his creation is only a fractional portion of the complete creation. So this material universe is huge. There's countless material universes, and even if you take all these countless universes, they are still a fraction of his whole creation. This is the amazing things. I mean, we can't even conceive this universe itself, and this is one of the smallest universes. Our planet is one of the smallest planets. And how do we conceive the total creation? The material world stands as a part only, ekam shena sito jagat. Supposing that the material world is a display of one part of his energy, the remaining three parts consist of Vaikuntha Jagat. So the whole creation, all the unlimited universes, not unlimited planets, until the unlimited universes, they're only 1/4 of the whole creation. Three parts are still the Vaikuntha planets and the eternal worlds of Lord Sri Krishna. So Vaikuntha Jagat or spiritual world described in the Bhagavad-Gita, and Mad Dham or Sanatan Dham or the eternal world. He creates and again winds up the creation. This action is applicable only in the material world, because the other greater part of his creation, namely the Vaikuntha world, is neither created nor annihilated. Otherwise, the Vaikuntha Dham would not have been called eternal. The Lord exists with his Dham, or in other words, with his eternal name, qualities, pastimes, entourage, and personality, which are all a display of his different energies and expansions. So this is how Lord Krishna is everything. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, whether he alone acts with the modes of material nature or simultaneously expands in many forms, or expands consecutively to direct the modes of nature. So Sukadeva Goswami says, "Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto him, who is the associate of the members of the Yadu dynasty, and who is always a problem for the non-devotees. He is the supreme enjoyer of both the material and the spiritual worlds, yet he enjoys his own abode in the spiritual sky. There is no one equal to him, because his transcendental opulence is immeasurable. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the all auspicious Lord Shri Krishna, about whom glorification, remembrance, audience, praise, hearing, and worship can at once cleanse the effects of all sins of the performer." So this is the glory of Lord Shri Krishna, and this is part one of how Lord Shri Krishna is everything. Part two we can discuss next week. Jai Hare Krishna. And thank you all for joining this morning. Rukmani Mataji, Jai Prabhu. Welcome Madhav Sham Sundar Prabhu, Partha Prabhu, Parveen Mataji, Prem Prakash, Gauradas Prabhu, Sarvesha Mataji, and Venkat Prabhu. Thank you all for joining. Would love to hear from you on this topic, your realizations, your thoughts on this, please. We'll just start from the top. Rukuni Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, very nice class.
Yeah.
Glory of Shri Krishna. We loved it. And we have known only 1/4 of the part of the universe, isn't it?
Of his total creation, which includes spiritual creation and material creation, all the unlimited universes are still 1/4 of his creation.
Oh.
This is the amazing thing. So, I mean, there are, just imagine that you have the jivas here in the material world, but his spiritual creation is 3 times more. So how many jivas must be there? There's unlimited jivas as well, living entities like us, the souls, the fragments of Lord Krishna. They must be unlimited. There's so many, and everyone is an individual. That's the amazing thing.
Yes, very amazing. Prabhuji, very nice class. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Jai Prabhu?
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Yes, I think you started saying to be attached to Krishna, we have to give up material attachments like the family, body, pet, kingdom. Yeah. Let's go through some of the points I picked up in the chapter. Krishna is a supreme personality of God. All living entities are eternally fragmented parts. Krishna maintains all living entities, whether they're in a conditioned state or liberated state. Krishna expands to innumerable forms, through his incarnation of those. He's forever young, with permanently youthful energy. It's very difficult to know simply by learning the science of the Vedas, but one can easily realize him by being a pure devotee. Yeah, he exists within his in other words, within his eternal name, qualities, and pastimes and personality. I guess that means, his name is non-different. Krishna's name is non-different from him, so are his qualities and pastimes. As Vishnu, he enters all material bodies. As Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, he enters into every universe. Shirodakshaya Vishnu, he enters the body of every living entity as a Paramatma. Yeah, so I think we talked about his energies like the material energy and the spiritual. So yeah, there's 2 kinds of natures, like material nature and spiritual nature. So Krishna exists through his energies. I think living human beings are his marginal energy. I think so. Yes, so you can go either way. So I think Bhagavad-Gita 10.8 says, "I am the source of all spiritual material worlds. Everything emanates from him." Yes, so I think it goes on to say Krishna is a super sound, supreme Lord of all realized selves. He's the personification of the Vedas, religious scriptures, and austerities. It's worshipped by Lord Shiva and Brahma as well, and worshipable by all devotees. He's the enjoyer of all sacrifices, the leader of living entities, the controller of intelligence, the proprietor of all planets. Yes, and in the spiritual sky, Krishna's opulence is immeasurable. He resides in all the spiritual planets. Yeah, actually. Okay.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. Madhav Shamsundar Prabhu, would you like to add something? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Jai.
Very nice class, Prabhuji. Yeah, the other devotees cover everything. So no, I don't want to say anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for joining. Okay, Partha Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Nice class, Prabhu. So, I mean, you mentioned an amazing point that it is just the current this planet is just very minute part of the whole universe, whole thing. I was reading something, Prabhu, just correct me, like there are 7 layers, which is like salt water, sugarcane juice, wine, clarified butter, milk, yogurt, and something like sweet water. So this itself is so amazing to know that how these can be arranged like that. And somebody was asking a question, Prabhu, like how can you say that like Krishna exists in everything and everything exists in Krishna? So they are referring to 2 slokas from Bhagavad-Gita where Krishna says that like as a Mahavishnu, the planets coming, the universe is coming out of him. So it shows that everything exists in him. And he as an expansion, he exists as a super soul in everybody. That shows that he exists in everything as well. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice. Okay. Parveen Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Then with pranam to everyone. Sorry, I couldn't hear the class very well today. My mind's been somewhere else, sorry. But we were reading chapter 8 and we were reading shlok 14. And I'll just read that. Ananya Cheta Satatam Yo Mam Samarti Nityasha Tasya Aham Sulabha Partha Nitya Yuktasya Yogina, where Lord Krishna emphasizes on the word like Ananya Cheta, without deviation of the mind, Satatam, always. So like someone who remembers me without deviation, I'm easy to obtain. So, O son of Partha, because of the constant engagement in devotional service, so we just have to remember that we just have to engage and free ourselves from all the material desires, all the like my favorite verse is from Nectar of Devotion, Anya Bilashita Shunyam, Gyan Karmadhyanavitam Anukulen Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. So we just have to remember these things and then we can like progress in our devotional service.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Okay. Prem Prakash Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Okay, maybe we can go to Suryashi Mataji then. Suryashi Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Well, a lot of points have been already discussed, which I wanted to say, but it's no harm in repeating, because by repeating anything, you'll understand more.
Of course.
Parikshit had devotion only to Lord Krishna before his death, and no any other demigods, because he knew that Krishna is everything. The Supreme Lord is pure spirit. He knew that the Supreme Lord is pure spiritual form, transcendental to all material qualities. Yet for the sake of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, he accepts the material nature, which is goodness, passion, and ignorance. He comes in different forms. Sometimes he comes as an animal, sometimes he comes as a fish, but he doesn't lose his identity. He's spiritual all the time. And he's the source of spiritual and material nature, material worlds. Everything comes from him. He says in Bhagavad-Gita, Aham sarvasya prabhu matta sarvam pratyet iti bhashte mam bhav samanita. He resides in all the demigods, in all the demons, in all the living entities, moving, non-moving, and even in all the atoms. And he takes different avatars, like he comes in Leela avatar as Lord Krishna and Ram. And he comes in Gun avatar, which is Lord Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma, for creation, maintenance, and annihilation. He comes as Purusha avatar, as Karandai Vishnu, Gabodai Vishnu, and Charandai Vishnu. He manifests himself in a pillar for Prahlad Maharaj, because when Hiranyakashipu asked, do you think Krishna is in the pillar? He said, yes. So Krishna is everything. He can be in anywhere, months even in the stone. He manifested in Draupadi's sari when she called out for him, when she was Badushashan. And he's everything. He's in material. He created the material like just in 10th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, he tells Arjuna his manifestation. He's in the earth, he's in the water, he's in the fire, he's in the air. And when people get mind intelligence, he said it comes from him. So he gives us mind and intelligence to know him, because we are part and parcel of Krishna. So he gives us instruction in Bhagavad Gita, and to follow the instruction and to go to his abode. So anything you see in this world, anything you see, Krishna is there, even in the trees, in the animals. I mean, they've got different material bodies, but Krishna, as a super soul, he never leaves anybody. In any condition we are, he's always there. So he's everything. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you. Prem Prakash Prabhu, are you there now?
Hare Krishna, Guruji, and Pranam.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So maybe
I'm
you're
busy
probably
in the
yourself.
morning. Very, very busy reading. Sorry, Guruji. I was just wondering, Prabhuji, a thing that initially actually trying to understand the point where you said there are two things: qualifications are necessary for a person to have progress in bhakti or conducive bhakti is birth in a right family and blessings of Gurudev, Guru Maharaj. I was just wondering because I was just trying to read somewhere and Guru Maharaj recalled the Guru Maharaj lecture as well, which is when he said that, where I read the text, basically, I'm confusing between the both, but the point which is there that we all take birth in a family and that we can't control. We don't have control over there, absolutely no control. But we respect the material body, the parents, mother and father who gave the material body and all. But to get progress in bhakti, it's also very important to be a twice born, and the twice born only comes when one takes initiation in line with Vaishnav, in line with the disciplic succession. So the importance of disciplic succession was actually discussed over there. Also, it was mentioned that is that when one takes birth in a family, he might take rebirth, and when he takes rebirth, then his parents change. So he might be born to another couple in the way of material creation happens. But the spiritual master, when one take initiation, and the spiritual master is then the father, parent of that particular soul, and just not in that lifetime, life after lifetime, who is responsible to groom us and help us progress in a Krishna Bhakti and ultimately achieve the final destination. So that there he is, that is what is important. So after that, even if a person has to take rebirth, the family could be conducive, but the spiritual master is still the blessing of spiritual master is there, which helps actually person to progress. Sometimes it happens that his spiritual master has to come again if he's not present, or have to make necessary arrangements so that soul can still progress further in bhakti. So that is what is actually I was pondering. Well, there are many good points, but I wanted to just bring that point in this discussion.
Jai.
Okay.
Thank you so much for bringing that up, because yeah, it is. It can be very confusing. That so, what does it mean that you have to be born in a devotee family and then you need a spiritual master? Because then we think that we don't unless we are born in a devotee family, we don't have any chance in this life. That means now then we have to take birth again and be born into and pray that we are born in a devotee family. So then, this process goes on. But yeah, thank you so much for clarifying that, because that makes sense. Because I was going through it myself in my mind, and I'm thinking about Prahlad Maharaj, I'm talking about Dhruva. Prahlad Maharaj was not necessarily born into a devotee family. He became a pure devotee. So I'm thinking, yes, there has to be a way, not necessarily that everybody has to be born into a devotee family. Because I mean, look at the ISKCON white body community, that they were not born into a devotee family. So yeah, that perfectly makes sense what you said, Prabhu. Thank you for clarifying. That's really good. Thank you so much. And Shanti Prabhu also mentioned that there is much inconceivable, but still there is chance liberation from this planet to Goloka. That's a wonderful statement there. You're absolutely right. Because Srila Prabhupada say, sometimes he says that don't try to understand Krishna, and then other times he says try to understand Krishna. This is probably a point I made before as well. So that could confuse people. So what do you mean? One minute you're saying don't try to understand Krishna, and then you say you have to try and understand Krishna, which we are doing right now. We're trying to understand Krishna. How Krishna is everything. How is the cause of all causes? How does he create? We're trying to understand him. Trying to understand his external energy. So how do we? So what does Prabhupada mean? So what Prabhupada means is that don't try to understand Krishna. Don't go out of your way to try to understand his conceivable energy, because you won't be able to do it. His conceivable energy, only he can explain. And so just try to understand what he has given you in Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. He has told you about himself. In chapter 10 in the Bhagavad-Gita, he has told about himself. So try to only understand what he has given us, the knowledge he is delivered to us. Try to understand that. Don't try to understand him beyond that, because you'll be just wasting your time. You won't be able to conceive it. So thank you so much, Partha Prabhu. Amazing point there. So just trying to understand what he wants us to understand. That's the way.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. So I think everybody's answered, and welcome Sopan Prabhu today. If you want to make any points, Prabhu, please come online, and then we're going to start Japa. Are you Prabhu there, Sopan Prabhu? Hare Krishna. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you so much for joining today. Swashi Mataji, you're okay. Now you have both Matajis. So Rukmani Mataji, you want to make a start today?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I don't mind.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
I was telling you about the Krishna's energy. It is beyond our imagination.
Absolutely.
We can't even imagine. For example, if we take food, each and every food has a different taste. Not a single taste is repeated. Even if you drink water also has a good taste. So that is very, 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 very amazing. Prabhuji is a great leader of the universe. I love Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
My obeisances, thousands and thousands of obeisances to Krishna.
Koti Pranam.
Koti Pranam. Yes, Prabhuji. Really is amazing.
Yeah, and this is what Shukadeva Goswami is saying. I pay my humble obeisances. Let me offer my respectful obeisances to the Lord, because as he's talking about it, he's just again overwhelmed by how inconceivable the Lord is and how he just creates everything, and he has so many different energies to do that. I mean, to be honest, when you just go into the garden, you see these flowers, you think, oh my God, amazing. How each flower, some flowers have so many different colors on the petals, and everything is just beautiful. And then that there is somebody's hand in this, even if he does it through Lord Brahma, who's the engineer, but it's still Krishna gives the intelligence to do it and gives the knowledge to do it. So when you start thinking about detail, then you think, oh my God, there's somebody doing all this. Somebody's been thinking about this. Somebody been designing this, and it's given so much variety to us, whether it's food or plants or flowers, anything. People's, different entities, and we got so many different animals, 8.4 million jivas, type of jivas. So it's just amazing. Yeah. So we just try and understand him much as we can, and we just serve him. That's the main thing, to please him. Let's serve him.
Yeah, we are tiny soul, and we have just two obeisances in, and we have to just pray to Krishna and keep us in this in his lotus feet.
Absolutely. I mean, we have nothing to boast about. We are so tiny that we can't even be seen with the naked eye.
Mustard.
And our universe is like described as like a mustard seed.
And what are we?
And I was watching this program, and they said that unless an alien comes 1 million miles near to Earth, he would just miss it, because in the deep space is just a very little speck. It's very easy to miss it. You would have to come like 1 million miles near it, and then you could probably pick up some sounds from the transmissions from this planet. Otherwise, you could just fly past the planet, never know that it was there, because it's so small. And we think we are the creators and the controllers and the proprietors of everything. Well, to be honest, we are nothing compared to we are nothing.
Yeah. And one more thing to add, we think our problems are big and our issues are big. It's nothing. All we have to do is just serve Krishna. That's all. It's in our hands. Every situation. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Okay. Right, Mataji. Shall we start the japa?
Yes, Prabhuji. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.